We're back. It's only taken us like a month to get back to this.
Oh yeah, how are you feeling, Symbol?
Yeah, how are you, Symbol?
It's nice to be able
Cool,
to
so
talk
let's
again.
go on to general boss design.
So petty.
I was thinking overall the whole raid is really fun.
Yeah, I think the whole raid is really fun.
I think that's part of the reasons we played it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of gripes, that's what we've got written down. We can feel free to add to this, of course. There's a few visibility issues.
Yeah.
What were those?
It was the ground markers. Initially,
They were brown
initially they
on
were
a brown floor.
Brown on a brown floor. I'm colorblind, so they were impossible to see. I could only tell where they were because they also were swirlies. So I just looked at the ground, and if it looked like it was moving a bit weird, I tried to stay away from it. And then they got fixed, but it changed the swirlies on Techies.
Yeah,
From
Techies.
green to red.
No, from brown to red.
Were they brown?
Yeah, there. Yeah, they were brown. Yeah.
No, okay. I mean, I'm not the authority on colours here.
No, you're pretty useless
But
on
I'm
colours.
fairly
That's the
sure
whole
they were
point.
green. And you're wrong.
Yeah. Were there any other visibility issues?
I think definitely at the start we were having issues with the line in Timbersaw, but that was mostly when a lot of shit was going on. It seems like things could walk over the indicator, and then it was very hard to see the laser line.
If he does the beam upwards, it's very hard to see it because he's standing in front of where you should be able to see it. But only if you've got a lot of trees. If you haven't got many trees, you can see the beam because it just goes along. But if there's loads of trees, and then he does the beam upwards, it's impossible to see. You just have to. We listened to the voice line, right?
Well, you found it a lot more viable to just listen to the voice line, and then it's going to go at the person that's tanking it.
Well, it just goes in front of wherever he's facing, right?
Yeah, well, it goes to the person he's like aggro to, right?
Yeah.
So.
Which actually, I kind of want to quickly say on that topic. That's something we don't think we were intending to say. I see it written down in Gyrocopter, but I think it counts for every boss. Is that the voice lines each correlate with a mechanic, and we were able to use that quite often, I think, throughout the raid.
Yes, that's definitely something that's done well.
Yeah.
And maybe the frostbite, at least I had an issue of knowing who actually has the amount of stacks of it. Seemed almost invisible on other players, at least to me.
Well, you can't see how many stacks someone else has. You can only tell from watching how much damage they're taking. That's why I'm already the healer, so I could tell that you guys weren't clearing your fucking frostbite stack.
The only time that it was important to see how many stacks you had was when everyone had the same stacks anyway, right?
Yeah, for the most part. But yeah, that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's go back to general stuff.
Sticky terrain, yeah.
This is apparently just a holdover issue from
a DOTA,
which makes sense because you have autopathing normally in DOTS, so you would never know that every single thing is fucking sticky because you click and the game paths you around it perfectly.
I think the issue isn't with the terrain. I think the issue is with the pilots. We're expecting the terrain to be.
They're expecting to
clip brushed everywhere, like it's like a fucking CS map or something.
Yeah, classic user error.
But we're not good enough to just path around the terrain. So yeah, it gets a bit sticky, especially on Gyrocopter. In Gyrocopter, the pillars are really fucking.
You get stuck on them.
You get stuck on them so easily.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a player skill issue. I don't know if that was what you were saying.
No, that was a joke.
Okay.
It wasn't a very funny joke, but it was a joke.
Serious.
I might have just, yeah. I'm not a very funny person. I take myself very seriously.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. It wasn't a very funny joke.
Good, excellent. Yeah, the sticky terrain.
Yeah,
I don't know if that can be fixed. One area where it's really fucking bad. I mean, it's annoying on Gyrocopter, but on Tinker, that shit will
Tinker,
kill
it's
you.
a fucking death trap, yeah. It's awful.
Because the idea is you go through like this maze,
Yeah,
but
the
you
Durban
like try and
maze is
walk.
really cool, but
You try and
can't
walk past
pass it.
these 3D like stalagmites or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
and
stalagmites.
and you get stuck on them because you're not entirely sure where their hitbox or where your hitbox starts and ends as well. So you get stuck on them and then you're dead unless a catcher pulls you.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is the most common thing for me anyway was I would say I'm stuck, and then Charlie would grip me,
Yeah.
save my life.
So I don't know if that can be fixed, but that's definitely an issue with the game.
Yeah.
And then the ads in general, all of the ads have really low HP to the point where you can burst them with like one player. So like on Gyrocopter, Timber, almost all of Beastmaster, Tinker. They like a lot of these ads have really low HP. So like for instance on Tinker hard mode, the spider bots, they can be burst down just by the jug, just on his own completely.
Yeah.
So they're not an issue.
I feel like most of the most of the ads in the game are such low health that almost any character is able to take care of them. But I see it more as a good thing actually, because it doesn't make you commit to a dedicated ad clear. If we had Lena just jump to the ads every now and then, which we I think did at some point, but then for example during the Techies, during the Techies fights, actually clearing mines and dealing with the ads was so painful that we had to just anyone that was near an ad should actually deal damage to it.
Well, on the contrary, I thought we just had you do it on Templar.
Well, the first time we had Lena do it, and then we had me do it, and then it was sort of a weird mix of if someone is close to it already, they can do it.
I was under the impression that it was mostly your job.
It was mostly his job. It's just that the ads were so easy to kill usually that if someone was near, we just pop a couple bursts at it and it dies. But most of the time it was your job, I seem to recall.
Yeah, like it wasn't on
Clockwerk.
I mean, for the most part, it ended up just being on almost every fight. It was just whoever's around deals with it, unless it's like the gyro ad where everyone goes.
Everyone goes to the gyro ad?
Well,
you can have one person deal with the gyro ad as well.
That's true. I always went to the gyro ads, regardless of what was going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's much of a criticism I have of the game, but it does mean that most burst profiles don't matter because the only burst that matters is insta-killing, because you just insta-kill ads, and then doing like a long burst isn't useful in any of the fights, other than Tinker. The miners on Tinker have so much health that a long burst profile is actually good.
There's one other, I think, in Beastmaster's bird, I think.
Yeah, but Beastmaster's bird has its own CC for it. So
True.
the burst doesn't seem to matter as much.
Yeah, I remember thinking that we were going to have a lot of trouble with the bird, and then it turned out to be fine. Like we just because of the way that fight works, half of the time you can just ignore it, and the other half of the time you can just burst it.
Right, should we move on to Gyrocopter then? And just talk about Gyrocopter. Yeah. Alright, so overall, I did a quick ranking of what I think the bosses are in terms of a tier list. So going from S to D, I think that was the tier list. Well, S to D, it was S to D, I remember now. And I placed Gyrocopter at A tier, because I think he's a great boss. He is a really good learning experience, because he has some fairly simple to understand abilities, and then he has two different abilities, which you can use to your advantage, which is really good learning experience and is really fun as well. So like using the barriers, the cubes, picking up the cubes to get the barrier, and stunning him with the missiles. Those are both really cool. Like that a lot.
I felt like maybe during the boss fight there wasn't enough. I would be happy to see something like a little cube swarm, where instead of one cube burst, we might have like 3 or 4 at once, and then maybe
But for a
he's a
first
little
boss,
exhausted. For the first boss, yeah,
I
but
think it was pretty well balanced for a first boss.
I think it was, but I'm thinking more of a like second phase to it, you know?
I think having a second phase to the first boss would be pretty
Cool.
pretty crazy.
I think that would be pretty cool if it was like a, hard mode only thing.
Yes.
Because, you can have the first boss be, like, as, good as Gyro, while being, it's like Gyro, the boss fight's pretty manageable. You can figure out most of the stuff that's going on pretty quickly. And it's really well designed. You can have a boss like that and just have that be, like, have him have some crazy phase in hard mode only. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
I don't think it was necessary though.
No, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I really like Gyro as it is.
The gripes I have with Gyro are the getting him hit with the missiles seems really inconsistent, and we never really figured out exactly what was the cause of it.
Our theory was that there's like a grace period after the missiles spawn where you can't swap them over to Gyro. But
it happens at multiple points, though, I seem to remember.
Yeah, sometimes people, like... I remember Coob saying this, I think, where, because you're melee, as soon as the missile things happen, you said that they would just swap to him straight away.
Yeah, nearly straight away, because I was so close to the boss at all times. For me, it happened every single time, and then I saw, for example, Charlie be sort of the same spacing as me to the boss, and it would not work.
Yeah, for me, it was like every single time. I would walk right up to the boss, go behind him, do whatever, didn't do anything. It was still chasing me.
For me,
so I couldn't figure out what it. I couldn't really figure out exactly what actually caused it to work. So it did feel a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, and on my the last runs, I had it every single time not work, and I'm melee as well, just like Coops.
Yeah.
Yep. Gyrocopter is definitely a boss with really clear audio feedback for the mechanics.
Yeah.
So that's good. And yeah, it's a good introduction to the idea of managing ads. That's the countdown on the ads, so you can keep track of it. That's fun too.
And you know immediately when you fucked it up because it plays the scary noise and everyone dies. No, not that one. When the ad actually blows up. I know it's been a while since we heard it, but...
Oh yeah, I know what you're on about. I thought it was a bit weird that the ads got stuck on things, or on each other, or on players.
Yes.
That was kind of annoying and weird.
You could body block them to delay them.
And if you would... I think it would be an easy way to fix it. Just if it gets body blocked, keep it there and add one.
So just to add on the ads, I had it at some point as well, where I was stuck in the ad, I didn't realize, and I had the fire thing on me.
Oh, nice!
Also
you got the flamethrower. Yeah.
So it goes both ways. They get stuck on us, and we get stuck on them.
Yeah, I thought it was mostly the fact that you could get stuck on them that it was annoying.
They also eat up projectiles while they're invincible.
Yep.
Which is kind of annoying. I think that happened in our winning run. I was doing an E on Gyro, and every single projectile got eaten up by an invincible ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is so rare that it's okay to be. Because that happened like maybe twice.
Yeah, but that's still, I don't know.
I could have played
seems
around it. It's just a bit
awkward.
Yeah.
Another issue, the flamethrower, the visual for it isn't particularly clear when it's booting up, because it'll put a really clear skull over the person it's trying to aim at, but then it'll show a cone, but the cone isn't forwards the way Gyrocopter is facing, which is where the flamethrower comes out. It's just pointed at you. So you can go around him like 90 or even 180 degrees, and the cone, the visual cone, will still show on you, even though that's not where the fire's going to go.
Yeah.
And that was fine, once we knew how it worked. But when we were learning, we didn't even know rotating was a viable option, because the cone was just faced to us. So we were like, oh god, it's just going to go on us. You have to outrange it. That's what we figured. So it was kind of a bad learning experience, that bit particularly, because it wasn't clear that you could just rotate around it, which is a great mechanic, but it wasn't clear.
And on the contrary, I think the hard mode mechanic for that boss fight, and for the Tinkerer as well, those are they're bad or boring in my opinion, because let's just focus on Gyrocopter. For Gyrocopter, it felt like you either deal with the mechanic, which is, you go behind the terrain and the sort of rapid fire gets soaked up by the terrain, and maybe your ranged characters can do something in the meanwhile. Or you just soak it and your healer does all of the thing, which makes me pose the question, where's the interactivity in that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a holdover from the fact that there was never originally meant to be hard mode mechanics.
Yes.
Because it was meant to only be the only mode. So yeah, that's definitely something we could put in the general boss design thing, that the hard mode mechanics are very inconsistent, because obviously they weren't intended.
A hard mode, yeah.
Yeah. But I really like Beastmasters, and I really like Clockwerk's mechanics, because they're unique. They're unique, and they change the way you play. Like, I remember the Beastmaster very clearly. When we played it in normal mode, we just put the acid pools in the corners, so we would have the less, so we would have more fighting space. But then in the hard mode, we would place it in the center to play it around the new mechanic, and I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to see for the next raid. Is good mechanics like that.
Mm-hmm. And if not new mechanics, then maybe something that I suggested before with the cubes. Maybe just power up one or two of the mechanics that are already in the boss.
Yeah, that would be cool too. So anyway, Gyrocopter.
Grip.
Did you want to say the strats bit out loud? I don't think we need to discuss that, do we? We can just leave that.
Not really. Yeah, I think the strats are fine. I mean, the video's up. You can see what we did, and if you're confused about stuff, you can read the doc.
Yeah, it'll be in the doc anyway. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts about Gyrocopter?
Not me.
Cool. Right. Timbersaw. A-tier boss, I thought.
Yeah.
Stunning. The stunning ads are dope. I love that. It's one of the best mechanics of the entire raid.
Yeah.
Really fun. Like a really fun layer to controlling the boss. But the gripe I have with it, why is the spawning of them random? Why do you sometimes get 5 green ads and no stunning ads? Fuck me. I want stunning ads, man. Shouldn't be random. Shouldn't be random. At the very least, you should get like a reasonable amount of both.
And the fact that you get stunned for the same amount of time that the boss gets stunned for makes me feel like maybe the boss sort of like takes away the power from the boss, because it gets affected by the debuff as much as you do. It's like, for the guy that goes like flies around the map, throws a chainsaw, huge flames in every direction, cuts down the forests, and then a little blue dot comes over and stuns him for as much as like some mage.
I think
Like,
it's alright. It keeps it consistent, doesn't it?
it does keep it consistent, but like thematically, I feel like it's an epic boss. And maybe if it gets stunned for a little less, actually. I would prefer that.
Like
Or
it
if
that
stun
the
will get
rules for the
shrunk.
players are the same as the rules for the boss. He just has more movements and more attacks.
I disagree, but anyways, that's opinion, not the.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. One issue with it being random as well is that not that we did this, but if you were going for a really fast time, you wouldn't want any greens whatsoever, so it would be kind of RNG.
Oh yeah.
You getting the fast time, so not a great mechanic if you did want the game to be speedrunning, like friendly. And then yeah, the line spawns the lasers that pretty much insta-kill you. We've written down that it's smaller than the actual size of the laser beams.
Like the diameter of the laser beams, which are circular, are larger than the width of the line that indicates it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
That's what I experienced. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I'm confident that I'm not wrong.
Yep, fair enough. That would be good then. I think it's for something that's that deadly. I think it's fine to have the circles that warn for it be like bigger than the actual effect anyway. They don't have to be exact, because if they're exact, it's going to feel unfair anyway.
Yeah, but the circles themselves, I think, are a clear indicator of where they end, which I think for as powerful ability as this is really good.
Yeah, I think one thing I would change about it is the circle. They go like one at a time. The danger circles go and appear before the laser appears, so you don't get a line of circles. You get like staggered circles showing on the floor. And I think that's one of the things that makes it tough to see where it's coming from sometimes, especially when it's going above. If it just showed a line of the circles immediately as soon as you did the ability, it would be really clear where it's going. And if he's aiming directly upwards, it wouldn't be obscured by his hit model either.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's quite a few times where he will have like zoomed off up top or something, and then the trees were coming back, so we'd get back to the middle, but he'd do a line, and we'd have to call out, like, you know, he's doing a line straight down the middle, or whatever. And you have to know not to stand there beforehand, because there's no indicator that that place is dangerous currently. You have to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the line is very slow. And that's not
it is slow.
that good, because because if someone is in melee range of Timber, and he's going to do the line, then you moving out of it sort of invalidates the rest of the range of the actual ability.
I have no idea what you mean.
This ability has like huge range, but it does every circle pops out so slowly over the range that the only sort of effective range of it is the beginning.
I wouldn't agree with that, because there were times we were hit by it when it was coming from the top side of the screen. Someone would call out that it's going middle, and then we still get hit.
There were, but that was very rare. I like that as a zoning thing, just keeping you from maybe going to a certain side of the map. But overall, I think it would be better if it would be maybe faster. But the rest of the abilities are brilliant. Except maybe the ult, because the ult is very dependent on how much of the terrain is actually destroyed.
Yeah, which isn't something you can plan around. So it feels really...
Yeah, you have no influence over how many trees are around.
Yeah, because you also don't have the influence over where's
in
the
a
gap.
weird way, because you can control the green ads if you wanted to, and choose when to have the ult go off.
Yeah.
But not practically.
Yeah, and also you don't have the control over where's the gap in the flamethrower. the fire, where it's going to be
Yeah.
more of it, where it's less.
Yeah. So the ult doesn't feel that great. Another issue that isn't written down that I have is the move where he gets the shield and then does saw blade to everyone.
Yeah.
It feels like it should be some sort of burst thing where you have to burst him to make him stop doing it. But in 4-player, that instantly ends. That it never ever goes on for more than a second.
All we had to do was walk into his zone, and he would stop. In our case.
Yeah, by the time he'd gotten to whatever side of the arena he'd grappled to, his shield was already gone. We just needed someone to walk in the circle.
Which maybe it'd be better to have it delayed so it actually appears when he arrived
when
at the
he gets
location.
there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the balancing was intended to be on that, but it felt like there wasn't much to it in the end. When in 3-player, when we were doing 3-player testing, it felt really insurmountable.
Yeah.
Alright, any other points about Timber?
I just want to come back to the actual flame circle. He's like sort of ultimate. I think it's a brilliant ability, and I wouldn't really want to see it removed, but maybe a little tweaked in terms of some sort of indication of where it's going to go, or maybe the waves being more waves, but bigger gaps of why.
Yeah, it would be nice if there were gaps built into it rather than it feeling like it's just we RNG'd a gap.
Yeah.
It doesn't
just
feel
tune down the randomness. Get regular amounts of gaps into the into the fire so you can play around it. If it's random, we cannot play around it, and that sucks.
Well, we can play around it, but it's in a different way. It's not in a play. It's not in a dodging way. You just have to shield through it, which is what we end up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the kill we got super unlucky at one point, and all the trees got brought back, and then he ulted immediately, and we were huddling in a corner shielding each other.
That definitely happened more than once in our playthroughs.
I don't remember if that's in the kill, but that happened a few times. We were just taking turns. Some guy had to stand in front until their shield ran out, and then we swapped.
Yeah, so anything else on Timber?
Nope.
That's it.
Okay, Beastmaster. B tier boss.
I only agree with you because of his powering up.
Acid pool management is a really good concept. I really like the concept where you have to put the acid pools in a spot of your own design to deal with the bird when it comes around. It's kind of like an emerging gameplay kind of thing, because it's clear that the intention was there for you to be able to do that, but it's kind of up to you and how you want to do it. So we end up putting acid pools in the middle and then going to just the side. But you could do it however you wanted, which is really cool. But the flaws to it are the acid pools come from the ads, and the ads, the way they spawn and act is a bit awkward, because they spawn randomly, just a random point on the map. So sometimes it will be near you and you can just easily kill them. Sometimes it's so far away you don't even know where they are.
Yeah.
And then the acid attack they do is really difficult for melee to deal with, because if the melee is hitting them and they do it, you have almost no time to react, because there's no wind up to them doing it. You could only learn. You can only learn the timing. You can't see it coming, basically, which is an issue, I think. So that made it difficult to actually deal with the mechanic intelligently sometimes.
Actually, no, I disagree. I think there's sort of an animation to it when they're about to spew acid, and then they face that person. But what I do not like is that there is inconsistent timing between when they're spawning and when they're actually going to do it. Because sometimes they're going to do it in like 3 seconds after they spawn, and sometimes it's going to be 7. And
I
then
don't think you're right. I think they always do it at the same time.
I don't think so.
Because they always do it synced up together.
But
yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. They both do it at the same time.
But they never do it in the same. Well, not never. Most of the time, they don't do it at the same time after they spawn.
I'm not sure about that.
Also,
I don't think there is a tell. There is definitely not a tell.
I'm pretty sure the animation for them doing it is the same as the normal attack.
They just do a normal attack animation constantly. There's no way of telling whether they're going to do the acid or just their normal auto attack.
If it is different, then it's obnoxiously small, the difference.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think for an attack that is this important, because you basically manage your hard mode mechanic with this attack, it should be clearer. It should be clearly telegraphed.
Yeah.
And if I'm not making this up, and the timing is inconsistent, then it's a big pain for a melee character to deal with them, because then I do not know if I can burst it in time, or will I get chased by the acid, or will I just get hit by the acid and risk a bad placement.
Yeah, either way, the acid doesn't have a very good tell, which isn't great.
Yeah.
And also, the acid spawning, the acid pool that spawns from the projectile, that can spawn before the projectile reaches you sometimes. It happened in our kill video.
Yeah.
I just saw it in the video. It's like 7 minutes and 2 seconds in, you can see a projectile is still chasing JD, but the pool gets left there anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I thought the bear was really cool. I really like the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the mechanic where he powers up for each acid pool. I think that's really cool and fun to deal with. Although there is issues with the aggro, which we've discussed already. So I don't want to go into that again. But yeah, there are some issues with that. But overall it's fun.
I have one more issue about this boss, but you go first, Goops.
Oh, and on the contrary, I think the bird was annoying to deal with, and it needlessly split them up in half. Because what we would do is we would have acid pools somewhere near the middle and top of the map, and every time someone's getting targeted, they would have to just go to the bottom. Because the bird would go to the opposite, the furthest point from the opposite of where they are. Either vertically or horizontally.
That's the strat that we decided upon, to be fair.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that's exploitable.
But that's how a mechanic's meant to be, right?
Yes, but it always puts us at the bottom of the map, is what I'm saying. Because we want to be at the bottom of the map, because we don't want to be near the acid pools when the bird isn't about to catch us. They always want to be ready for the bird near the bottom, which basically cuts the map in half, and we don't care about the top half.
I think we could have chosen any side. Like we could have chosen left, right, or top. It just always goes to the longest side, opposite of where you are. That's what I experienced.
I think I get what you're trying to say, Coobs, which is that you have half the effective space of the arena.
Yes.
But I don't really have an issue with that. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine as well.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't like it because it rinse and repeats the actual. So when the Beastmaster actually ults, then we would go to the top part of the map, and then when he finishes ulting, we'd go back to the bottom map and rinse and repeat.
I thought that was a really fun gameplay loop, personally.
Yeah, I thought I liked that because you got into like a rhythm with the boss.
But I'm thinking.
And it was a boss that actually rewarded us for coming up with a strategy, which the other two bosses, we didn't have a very in-depth strategy. But for Beastmaster, we actually had to prepare stuff and decide where we want to put Azure pools and, oh, we need to put him here for this ult. That was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed that. I'd be happy with more bosses in that sense.
I see what you're saying. Now, I was about to say maybe to have a tell of where the bird is going to go and you having to go to the opposite side of it.
I feel like that would definitely take away from the opportunity
Yes.
to strategize.
Yes. No.
That would definitely be harder. There's no question about that.
But it's more reactive and that's less fun.
That would be less fun for me. I can see how that would be more fun for someone else, maybe you, but for me, I like being able to plan the stuff, so I like that.
Fair enough. No, I partially agree with it now. You mentioned.
Was there anything else about Beastmaster?
One issue I have is the. Oh wait, yeah. Sorry, Simple. You were gonna go after Coobs, right?
Oh yeah.
When the bird flies over to you, it flies in it flies until the model is right next to you. But when he grabs you, similar to Batrider's ulti, he puts you at the edge of his maximum melee range, which I think is the issue here because he pushes you away from him before he starts dragging you to the other side. So one of the issues that I experienced is I stood right next to the edge of the arena where the arena would the water would kill you, and when the bird flew to me, he pushed me forward into the river and then dragged me across as I died to the edge of the arena death animation, which I thought was a bug.
Yep, I remember that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was about to say if we get dragged off the staircase, did we mention that if we get dragged off of the staircase?
Yes, the outside of the arena is very buggy.
Yeah, sometimes you can actually stand inside it.
Yeah, sometimes you can just stand there fine.
Yeah, that's a bug that he is aware of.
Yeah.
What
were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah, the issue I was going to say is that it's very difficult to, one, hear the dinosaurs stomping sometimes.
Yep. Oh, yep.
And two, tell who it's actually stomping at.
I don't have a problem with that personally, because that's something the designer said was that it was intentional, that there's no line because you're meant to be able to tell who it's going at. You actually have to figure it out. The issue I have is sometimes there can be two dinosaurs inside of each other and aiming at different people.
Oh my god, yes.
Aiming at different people or aiming at the same one. That should never happen. Don't have two dinosaurs inside of each other. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite liked having to listen out for that and figure out who it's going to and then dodging it. That was a fun mechanic, I thought.
Mind having the tell be the stomping. I mean, maybe this is just an issue with us, but there are a few times where we just lost it, like lost the noise of it behind our comms, and we just didn't I think it happens in our kill video, right? I die because
we couldn't hear the stomping.
No one heard the stomp because we were talking.
Yeah.
So
maybe it could have been louder.
Sure. Make it an earthquake sound.
Or maybe we should have just turned up the game. I'm not sure.
That's what I was wondering. Is maybe it was just, should have had a game noise. Louder.
Either way, that's definitely something we noticed. I don't know if it's necessarily a problem with the game, but that's something that is a feedback we can give.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the hatchet throw?
I liked it. That was a fun ability.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
I really like it when you can use mechanics to your advantage in some way, like their own boss mechanics, like in Gyrocopter, and Timbersaw did that as well with the axe, where you could hit the bear with it. I thought that was very fun.
Really fun. It makes you feel really, really crafty and sneaky, even though it's clearly intended. But it feels great. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I think that's Beastmaster covered.
Oh.
Yeah.
Techies. A-tier boss. One issue I have starting off with issues. Actually, let's start off with positives. I really like the theme of the boss of just controlling, like, management of mines. You spend the entire fight managing mines, and it's really fun and unique.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it properly, you will die.
Yeah,
That's dope.
I love the idea that you have to control this like arena, and you have to use your health as a resource, and your shields and whatever.
Yeah.
Am I
really
the only
cool. I
one
really like this boss.
Am I the only one that felt like the mines spawning felt inconsistent? Because sometimes we would have, maybe we just like became really good at it, but sometimes we would have the entire or most of the map swarmed with mine, or at least like a couple of the corners swarmed with mines, and sometimes they'd be just empty.
I think that was probably just us, like, playing better or worse.
Yep.
It felt like there was some randomness to it, but it didn't feel.
There's definitely randomness to it, yeah.
It didn't feel not unovercomable, you know.
It wasn't the sort of randomness that I don't like the Timbersaw example.
Yeah.
It was a play-aroundable amount of randomness, especially seeing as it just did them on Techies, so you knew where they were gonna be.
Yeah. Speaking of randomness, we like.
Wait.
I did want to come
wasn't
back
done with
to
my positives.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
I would still want to say something about the first thing we said, though, about how we like the health as a resource thing. Because I did that. I like that a lot too. But I have a theory that the reason we like that is because our healer was so good and overpowered.
We had so much health to use as a resource.
Oh, we did the same fight on with Nosons, and that was also really fun because you could use armor aura.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Armor aura, let's go.
Yeah. So.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think it was fun just overall. The positive I was going to say was, yeah, basically the management aspect. The mines on its own is a really great idea, but what really brought it all together, I think, was being forced to deal with the ads, because you had to go and kill the ads. You couldn't just ignore them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you had to have some of the space clear, especially with our comp, because we didn't really have any long range heroes. And then obviously the delivery phase. If you get to the delivery phase and you haven't managed haven't managed mines, and you don't have cubes to spare,
it's over.
You're screwed. Yeah.
Which one guy's gonna die, which is gonna kill everyone else.
Yeah, which is really great. And one thing I particularly liked was, you deal with the when you actually know what you're doing, you deal with the mines with your health and with your shields. But having the cubes as well is really interesting, because then you also have ways of dealing with stacked mines, and you can throw them at the ads, which is pretty much always wrong, but you can do it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that's pretty much always wrong, not just because you're wasting a cube and not clearing any mines with it, is if you cube in front of an ad, the person still gets stunned for like a bit before the cube actually intercepts it. So sometimes I can still get someone killed. So it's not a very good way of dealing with the mechanic. And I don't think it's meant to be a good way of dealing with the mechanic, but it feels a bit shit.
It feels worse than maybe it should be.
Yes.
Even though it's not supposed to be very good.
Yeah, you're clearly meant to use the cubes for mines, like the big stacks, especially when he does a throw. He just throws 3 mines onto the exact same pixel.
Or sometimes when you're separated from, if one person is separated from their team but they're close to the ad, or they have to deal with the ad, someone from their team can throw away cube in that direction. Not to intercept the ad, but actually to clear the mines, so the person that has to deal with it can actually deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically dying.
It becomes quite important to have a couple of cubes to spare, which is really fun. And also, if you want to get the cubes, you have to have the space clear, because you need to go and be able to pick them up. So the whole boss fight is really, I don't know what the word is, but it plays in, every mechanic plays into each other really well, so it feels really good and cohesive.
Yeah.
One issue I did have with Techies.
Yeah.
His Suicide Squad, I know it was changed before we started playing, to be more forgiving, but it's still not forgiving enough, because if he does a minimum rage Suicide Squad on a healer that has no mobility, there is no way of dodging it in time. You cannot react fast enough. Which ends up meaning the way of dealing with it is to always be far away from Techies, which isn't that great of a feeling mechanic. It feels like you should be able to at least dodge the Suicide Squad on reaction. So
Yeah.
being just instantly killed because you had to be on this bit of the map, didn't feel that great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like there's no way of dealing with it because you can just be further away from Techies.
Well,
but it didn't feel good.
I disagree. I think there are some points where it's really difficult to deal with, like right after a delivery, where you have to go to where your delivery is.
He never
You
does
can't
it during
avoid...
the delivery.
No, he doesn't do it during, but he does it afterwards, doesn't he?
Hmm?
So
I don't
like,
think he ever does it that quickly after it. I could be wrong, but
none of the
it takes a
healers
while
have...
to reactivate. I don't know if you remember, but
Oh,
sometimes he just
yeah,
takes
I do.
ages to reactivate.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, maybe this is less of an issue than... I mean, I never experienced this issue because I was playing Lena. It's just dash away, like, instantly, it's fine. But I could see it being awkward if you had to be somewhere for delivery, and, like, maybe, I don't know, there's, like, some mines or something, and you're stuck close to Techies, sorry. You're stuck close to Techies for longer than you want to be. Which means that it's awkward to get far enough away to dodge the Suicide Squad if you don't have any mobility.
Yeah, the ability is either too fast, or the time that it the scenario in which it can happen has to change, so it can accommodate for like less mobile characters.
In my opinion, my issues with it would be that the speed of it depends on how far away he's doing it. I don't think that should work, personally. I think it should be always take the same amount of time, regardless of where he's aiming it.
Yes.
And then, the audio cue, it shouldn't be quieter just because you're further away from him. The audio cue should always be the same. Sometimes you don't hear it, because it gets quieter when you're further away. That seems a bit dumb to me. You can still dodge it because he's really far away, but I don't like it. It should be clear, a lot more clear in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the idea behind the Suicide Squad is to force you to move so that, you know, I'm assuming almost all the mechanics in Techies are designed to force you to move into mines or just bad spots. So it feels kind of shitty to have the mechanic that is supposed to be, you know, you really need to move, and if you haven't been managing mines properly, you're really being punished right now. But, like, you can be managing mines properly and then get instantly punished for nothing.
Yeah, one mechanic in Techies definitely isn't to force you to move away, as the remote bomb. That forces you to regroup, which is a good mechanic, but I have a major issue with it, and that's that soaking as a group for it feels awful. The scaling on the damage feels really weird, because if you give a shield to someone on full health, they can just solo soak it. But then if you soak it as two people, you both get mega chunked. So it almost feels like you'd rather just have one person solo soak it and shield them than to group up for a soak mechanic.
It doesn't feel like the damage gets split 50-50. It feels like it gets split like 75-75.
Yeah, something like that. It feels pretty bad to soak. I would much rather it dealt a fairly low amount of damage if you soaked it as a group, but then just killed someone if you failed to soak it. That would be good.
I wish you could soak it with cubes.
That would be cool.
Because then
yeah.
it's
I mean, you can bury your cubes.
Yeah, you can bury a cube, so why not?
Your positioning of the cubes matters even more.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
What did you guys think of the moves of the... Wait, did this boss have a hard mode mechanic?
No. Yes. No.
No, it was the...
No, it didn't. It didn't. Oh no, it did. It did. The knockback, right? The knockback was hard mode.
It wasn't that... Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's a good mechanic.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because it makes you kind of like, ah, shit, I'm in a corner of mines. What am I going to do now?
Makes you actually have to dodge something when you're tanking the boss.
Yeah. Well, you have to dodge the...
You have to dodge a lot of shit, but... yeah, it's good.
I have a counter argument. I didn't really like it that much, because there wasn't really much reason to dodge it for my character. I just made sure I was between a wall that didn't have any mines, and I just hit the boss. And then when he did the pushback, I hooked back onto the boss, and that was the entire mechanic for me.
But I think that's good. That's like dealing with the mechanic successfully.
And that's dealing with it in a hero-specific way, which is fun.
Yeah. But for but now the I guess that's not more of an issue. It's actually more of a compliment. That the fact that we have to clear mines in the first place, that we have to, like Charlie said, use our health to manage how many mines we have on the screen. If the pushback happens and you're on the wrong side of it, blown into even more mines after you've cleared some and you're very low health, that's like very risky. So that's that extra pressure of your positioning mattering a lot more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I ask you if you actually have been pushed back and hit by the mines?
Yes.
Because
not instantly, but I did not have a couple of times. I didn't actually have my jumps, so I was forced to tank some of the mines that I went for.
I see, because from my experience, I even was able to fly through some mines, and even if I landed right where I ended, there was some mines, I could still get out of them in time. I don't know. It felt like a mechanic I didn't really have to deal with a lot. Even how do I explain this? It just sort of happened.
Have to deal with it a lot, but Charlie would have to, because if he gets pushed into a bunch of mines as a healer,
I'm screwed.
Yeah. So it might be uninteractive for you, but it's very important to deal with for Charlie, for example.
Especially if I was playing Nosons as well, because I'd be a melee healer with no mobility. That would be rough. It was rough, I think. I think I was pretty well acquainted with the boss at that point, so it wasn't too bad. But
okay, well, fair enough. I think my main gripe, I guess, is that for me, it did not feel like a hard mode mechanic. It was just something that happened, and it was just like,
Yeah. I barely interacted with it because I'm ranged.
And
bullying.
Yeah, the bully phase is great. I love that. That's fun. That's fun as hell.
You can actually bully documents around.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
One thing I just wanted to reinstate. Yeah, the swirlies that show where the cubes are going to spawn. They were originally brown, but with the update to the Tinker stalactites to make them red, to make the stalactites show as being bad and will kill you. It also changed the cubes spawn locations to also be red, even though they're not a bad effect. So that can actually make it look like a negative effect, even though it's something you need. You need to manage. You need these green cubes. You should pick them up.
Yeah. If anyone, I mean, that didn't really affect us, but only because we already knew what that mechanic was before that change happened.
Yeah.
But if you were playing after that, you'd be like, oh shit, what is this? And then
dodge those cubes.
You'd see a green cube and you'd be like, holy shit, I need to stay away from that.
Yeah, it spawned with a red swirly.
Yeah.
red is bad.
Really? Yeah, these green cubes are probably trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, color coding would be nice if it would be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it actually means.
Should we move on? Clockwerk?
Yes.
Yeah, Clockwerk.
Alright, Clockwerk. B tier boss. Really fun bullet hell style fight, I thought. I really liked the style of the fight. You're just having to dodge loads of shit constantly. That's not. There's no other fights in the raid which really have you do that, so it was quite unique. I really liked the idea of removing his armor piece by piece, and then you choosing which order the mechanics you get is. So you can choose your own plan in that way.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
But the actual mechanics felt underwhelming. Some felt more underwhelming than the others.
Yeah, and the implementation was kind of weird as well, because you can start doing it once you just see arrows in the corner, and then you drag him over to an arrow in the corner, and then the arrow lights on fire, and then he loses an armor.
Yeah,
it's like nothing. There's no theming. Yeah, there's no feedback, and there's no theme to it.
Yeah.
You just kind of bring him to a fiery corner. It's kind of weird. Like, it seems like something that should be more of an event. Like he's losing an armor piece, but also becoming more powerful. There should be like more to it. Not necessarily it should be more complicated, but it should be more than just dragging him to a corner and he lights it on fire. Dragging him to the corner is fine, but it's just like the visuals and everything. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, every time you drag him into the corner, he's going to do the mechanic as soon as he can.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
which
can be
is
a bit...
good. That's good for showing what the actual mechanic
is.
Yeah. That you revealed. But I would actually prefer if it's random, because when you do the boss fight the second time, the third time, the fourth time, you know which corner does what. But then that takes away from the actual planning. Like Charlie mentioned, the choose your own adventure is not there anymore. It's more of a roguelike, randomly generated.
Wait, you want the corner abilities to be random? Like you go to a corner and you don't know what is going to be activated? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying more like there's no real point for the ability that you've just given to the boss to be shown right away. If you already know what's going to be in that corner.
I'm pretty much indifferent about this.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't really have a problem with it. The issue I was going to say, is that one of the corners is the anthrax corner. So you bring him to the corner, and then suddenly there's anthrax spawning immediately.
Yeah.
And it's really deadly immediately, and you're probably
all
grouped.
in the corner.
Yeah, you're probably grouped to try and get him in the corner. So that feels really, like, awkward. But that's also an issue I just have with the anthrax in general. Leading on to that. Anthrax, there's not much warning on it. You just...
Yeah.
As soon as you get the icon on your head, you're immediately dropping anthrax on the floor. And it's really common to take at least 2 ticks of damage before anyone actually notices you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dealing with the mechanic itself is fine. I like the mechanic, the way you have to deal with it. I think it's a good mechanic. But there's no warning on it, which feels really awkward. And it can really catch you out, which isn't much fun. Especially since there has no sound cue.
Yeah.
I agree with this.
Yeah, visual only is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I like the hide mode mechanic. It adds on to the actual chaos going on of dodging all bunch of stuff and all different mechanics.
Yes.
But I do really wish it would actually choose maybe a random direction that it would start firing in. Because if you have a turret that... I think they go clockwise, right? If you have turrets that...
Anti-clockwise.
No, counterclockwise.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I actually just disagree with the random spawn. I really like that it's consistent. Because it's consistent. I like that.
But then it's But then you have cases of like maybe 2 or even 3 turrets spawning just on the left side, and you don't actually have to deal with them for a long time because they're turning so slow. They're going to hit the wall for a very long time until they actually will point down and then to the right, and then will actually start affecting the arena.
That is definitely true, but I don't have a problem with that personally. I think I like that because it's really consistent, and you know exactly how you have to deal with it.
You know how much time you have to deal with it as well in that case.
Yeah,
but
like there's no ambiguity.
Yeah,
which there definitely is on the Anthrax. You don't really. It's hard to tell when you're going to get it. But it does make it a bit awkward sometimes because sometimes they just spawn in a spot where they're useless and you don't really have to deal with it.
We had one other issue that, from my experience, impacted our kill on our run a lot, which is that we had no idea when cogs would spawn, and going into a corner when cogs spawned was basically KO.
That's not true. We definitely did have an idea of when cogs are going to spawn.
Well, then
because we planned around it.
Yeah, I mean that was our strat.
Yeah, well, at the start
left,
for sure,
cogs,
but
bottom right, top left, top right. Cogs.
At the beginning, yes.
But we. I distinctly remember we had to keep the boss in the middle before going to top right for Anthrax, because we had no idea when it was going to spawn. Like the only reason we knew when it was going to spawn is because we'd done the boss multitudes of times, and we literally experimented the order, which I don't think
we didn't learn. We learned the timing on it like through trial and error, not through.
Oh, I see what you mean. Else. Yeah, it wasn't clear. The timing wasn't like clearly signposted.
Yeah. So the first times we killed it, it was literally touchy-feely. Like, okay, do we go into the corner now? But we had no idea whether cogs was going to spawn. So in some cases, we kept it in the middle for ages. Like cogs was nowhere near, but we didn't know that.
So that leads me on to another point as well, because the cogs feels a lot more like an ult than the rocket barrage. So, having this counting towards the rocket barrage, which is barely even an event, you barely have to deal. You just have to slightly dodge. Nothing's going on during the rocket barrage. It's just the rocket barrage, so it's super easy to dodge. Whereas the cogs, that is an ult. You have to deal with it. You have to position the boss well, and then you have to deal with it. So, in my opinion, I would have the mana bar showing the cogs and have that be the ultimate. And then have the rocket barrage just go off whenever it feels like it. Because
I completely agree.
Yeah, that's much more of a mechanic that you don't have to plan around.
I really had to be.
Wait,
did we finish on Clockwerk?
yeah, I think we're done with Clockwerk, finally.
One thing that might have not been mentioned, I don't know, because I wasn't here. His cogs attack makes the fight uninteractive, which I don't like. If you're melee, actually, it's really fun, I think, because you have to constantly manage where it's going to, which way the laser faces you, if it's going towards you. I'm about to get stunned. But as a ranged character, you don't have to deal with any of that. You can choose to deal with it, but if you don't, there's not really much that you can do.
It's a little weird that you get to decide whether you bother with cogs or not. I mean, really, if we wanted to play it super safe, we wouldn't have even had the 2 melees in there. It would have just been me remnanting and right-clicking on Clockwerk.
Yeah, which I don't think that's a good thing. I like how it strips its armor off. That you actually get to deal full damage.
Yeah, it's like risk-reward. But yeah, you don't actually have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, I think it's fine that you can choose whether to deal with the mechanic individually. But like, if we all can just sit aside and just let him do his thing, with no punishment. I agree, that feels a little weird.
Yeah, if maybe there would be something for people that are actually outside of that zone to deal with. That'd be good. As a healer, I understand.
Something where you're forced to be in it. Like, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Especially if it was an ult. It's like, okay, get in the cogs. And if you're not in the cogs, you die. That would be fair enough, in my opinion. Because at the moment,
or have a soak in the middle, so like damage is shared between everyone inside the cogs.
Just something, I mean,
one person can be outside.
Just something that stops you from just ignoring the mechanic. That would be good.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay.
Then, let's move on to the penultimate. Of which I mean, of course, Tinker.
The penultimate?
Yeah.
The penultimate final boss?
I learned words today.
Well, because I wish there was a final boss after this, because Tinker is a D-tier boss, I'm afraid. It is shit. It's
There's one thing that's good.
Fight where the ads are shit. I'm not a massive fan of ads fights as a final boss, personally. That's kind of a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as an ads fight, it is terrible, because the only ad that matters is the miners. So you burst down the miners, which is fine. And then the other ads are mostly ignorable. You've got the artillery ones, you've got the fire elementals, and you've got the spiderlings. The spiderlings die instantly, so they're not anything. The fire elementals do a lot of damage. And the artillery you definitely have to dodge. But overall it's really underwhelming, and there's not much of a core to the fight.
Yeah.
I don't think the problem is that they're ignorable. I actually disagree, they're not ignorable. It's just that they're very easy to deal with. Yes.
I get that's much more what I meant, I think. Is that they're really easy to deal with. There's not a whole lot going on. Especially sometimes you just kill like in the start of the fight, you kill a miner, and then there's like 2 artillery bots up, and you just let the healer heal with them.
Yeah,
there's very little going on.
I think the real issue with the ads is that you never have to go out of your way to deal with any of the extra ads. You just focus the miner and then deal with the other ads as they come to you. And most of the ads are relatively easy to deal with. While also, like, you can deal with almost all of the ads while just hitting the miner. Like, artillery ads you mostly just ignore and just dodge. It's not, like, a big deal.
I do like that it has a very distinct sound cue that allows you to dodge them. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. And then, like, the spiderlings come to you. The fire elementals are always stacked up, so, you know, the 2 melee just burst them instantly.
I think the biggest issue out of the fight, and I might go on a little bit of a rant with this, is the Ice Bite is a terrible mechanic, because you start getting Ice Bite immediately as soon as the start of the fight begins, and you can only clear it after the first intermission. So what the fight boils down to is this is the only hard part of the fight. You need to live through the Ice Bites, because this is the final boss, and you're an impossible, and you can't afford to die. So you need to live these, and you cannot get rid of it until intermission 2, until after intermission. So all it comes down to is bursting the miners, and then min-maxing healing until the intermission actually happens. So you just burst down the first miner, Akasha heals off of the little bots, and you have to play really well until you actually get the fire that lets you clear the Ice Bites. It honestly seems unintentional that there's no way of actually dealing with the Ice Bite until after the intermission. Because, like, it seems fairly straightforward. You get Ice Bite and you have to clear it with the fire. But, like, having no way of dealing with it seems really ridiculous.
Yep.
And it can be really hard to heal through unless you're actually playing well.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah.
That's the only hard part of the fight. Because once you get that down, you know you've got the boss down. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else hard in the entire fight. Because you just deal with the new ads that come, you deal with the fire alleys that start spawning, you deal with the spiderlings. The silence projectile, I think, is actually really great.
Yep.
That's one of the only things I like about the fight. The science projectile, you actually have to deal with it. You have to deal with it in a really interesting way as well.
Agreed.
And then the intermission itself, I like the idea, but it feels awful to play because the stalactites are really sticky, and the gaps in them are inconsistent. In that sometimes you have to go to the very edge of the arena to dodge, to get through the gap, and that's literally impossible for like a slow character. So you just are forced to double back through the laser. It's not that much fun to deal with.
Yeah, punishes you for having less mobility.
It greatly punishes you for it, yeah. And for not having much healing. Because with or shields, because with those you can be a lot more lackadaisical about having to actually deal with it. You can just walk through the laser if you want. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the laser, the intermission, mostly because of the inconsistency of the stalactites and the stickiness of them.
Yeah, stalagmites, by the way, Charlie.
Yeah.
Tights fall down. That's how you remember.
So yeah, overall the fight is really underwhelming because as a last boss, personally I feel like a last boss should really test you on what you've done in the raid. So in this raid we have a lot of ad management, like with Timbersaw and Beastmaster, and then you got a bit of bullet hell from Clockwerk. You got Techies, which really rewards you for managing the mines, and then you get into Tinker, and it almost seems like you might have to deal with all of these things because you got loads of ads from like in Beastmaster, but they're super easy to deal with most of the time. And then you've got the crystals mechanic that seems like you might have to plan around it, but then it turns out you can just completely ignore it.
I completely
the crystal
forgot
mechanic
that was a thing.
Yeah, the crystal. Where you drop the crystals doesn't matter at all. So that's like you don't have to worry about that. And then I guess you have to dodge things sometimes, like artillery and the lasers, but it doesn't really feel like a culmination of everything you learn. It's really underwhelming and really easy once you get past P1.
I mean,
I agree that Tinker is a very underwhelming fight, but I do think that the setup of the entire fight, like the thought process, sorry, dogs being bad, the thought process behind it really is good. Like you've got phase 1 and phase 2 with a transition. You have the crystal mechanic where you set up in phase 1 and it pays off in phase 2. Like the thought process behind it, I completely get behind. It just seems that the execution is a bit lacking to me.
No, I don't want to be overly positive about it because I really hate the fight. I don't think it works.
You don't want to be overly positive.
No.
Trust me, you're not being overly positive.
Not being positive at all.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you, Symbol, in that, in theory, some of the ideas work, but I don't like how it's turned out in any way.
No, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, the thought process behind, like, the crystals of, like, having something in phase 1 that pays off in phase 2. That's amazing. The problem is, it doesn't pay off in phase 2, you ignore it. Yeah. And, like, the phase 1 with the transition into phase 2, I love transitions. I love, like, having a phase 1 and then a transition, and then you get right into nitty-gritty. The problem is that each phase and the transition has glaring issues. But like the bare bones, like the structure of the fight, like how I imagined the fight looked on the design board is great. It's just that somewhere between the design board and the fleshing out the encounter to what it is that we played, something went wrong.
I would have much preferred it if it was just... I like intermissions. I think intermission phases can be really fun. And I like what you said about, you know, setting up P1 and then having it pay off in P2. That's a good idea as well. But I really don't like the ads fight kind of thing, where you're just fighting ads and you're not fighting Tinker, and you're watching this mana bar go up. That feels really weird. And I'm not a fan.
I had no idea what I was fighting until 5 minutes into the game. Until the battle.
Yeah.
Like, am I fighting the crystals? Am I fighting the miners? And then everything crumbles down. There's the completely new mechanic enemies. It's like, okay, I'm fighting him. And I would prefer Tinker as he is after the third intermission. Like, that actually feels as a boss fight, in a sense. It's as close it's as close to a boss fight as all the other boss fights before that. But the crystal phase, all the 3 crystal phases before that, feel like a filler to it.
Yeah.
Because you're not fighting him. You're trying to get to him.
Yeah, you're not fighting. Sometimes you're not even fighting anything. So
Yeah.
You're just running away.
So yeah.
I think actually, thinking about it, this boss kind of does have a little bit of everything from the previous bosses in it. It's just all of it is so undertuned that it's inconsequential and really hard to actually notice. Like, you have the ads management, which is on like a bunch of fights. You have the like, I don't know, arena management thing with the crystals, kind of like placing acid in Beastmaster. You have the bullet hell stuff in phase 2 with the March of the Machines thing. It's got some stuff in it that feels like it could have been like a really great end boss, but it was the fight was way too easy.
It definitely does, but I'd prefer for all of those aspects to be focused on separately. Like, maybe between in the intermissions, or after each intermission, there being a different thing that you focus on.
Yes,
just
I
a bunch
agree.
of ads.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
For once, weird bullet hell, maybe with different color-coded bullets that would deal less or more damage, or something like that. But something that'd be more focused instead of adding every mechanic together.
I get you, but I also kind of slightly disagree with you. Like, I'm very, very fine with like different concepts overlapping and focusing on a couple of them. But I do get, and I do agree with that part, is that throwing every part of the mechanic at the same time is not the way. But like having a bullet hell, and whilst you're doing bullet hell managing ads, that I'm down for that. Actually, I think that's fine.
No, me too. But in this fight, it did not work for me.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this fight it doesn't execute the different concepts very well, I think, but it is not the problem that they should focus on one of them, I think.
I very much agree with what Kuba initially stated, where I would really like a fight where each intermission is, or each phase is like a testing you on a different thing. I think that would be really, really fun, personally.
Because why not have that and then combine them at the end?
Yeah, that would be sick.
I mean, I think the main issue I think the reason why none of us really like this boss and why Charlie really hates this boss is that it was just so disappointing as an end boss.
Mm-hmm. And the miners are just the DPS check.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really. I mean,
you don't fight the boss, man.
Really
you just hit a load of fucking trash.
And not fighting the boss is also part of the problem, because like in phase 2 you fight the boss. Fair enough. The problem is, and I think that you said this in the last video, by the time you get to phase 2 and you get to fight the boss, we kind of knew we already won.
Yes.
I mean, which is not really what you want to have happened in an end boss.
You know you've won once you clear your ice bite stacks.
Yeah, once you've lived through the first laser maze, you've won.
Yeah, which now the phase 2, all the mechanics are unique, but the swarm of the enemies coming from all directions, that feels like it shouldn't. It is so useless that it might as well not be there, because it doesn't do anything.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like a bullet hell kind of thing where you have to hide behind stuff, or dodge around.
Yeah, if they would deal,
But they don't do any damage.
I think that's a great
Yeah.
mechanic, but make them deal more damage.
They
So
can
I actually have to
punish
care.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in our kill video, I was like, make sure you dodge them just in case. But like, you didn't really need to. I just didn't want to have to try that hard for healing.
Yeah, I don't think I even bothered to touch them even after you said that.
Yeah. And then there's the laser, where you have to hide behind
Crystal
rain.
or rock.
I like that mechanic.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, because you want to position appropriately, but you still want to deal damage, as a Mario, for example. I like it. But then the hide mode mechanic, you have to step out, and depending what sort of character you are, just like in a Clockwerk.
Oh yeah, the rockets.
The rockets?
Yeah.
Rocket Barrage. That's the move you're talking about.
Yeah. Like, when that's about to happen, you again have this variety of interactivity, just like in a Clockwerk cog circle move, where you either can interact with it as a ranged character and deal some damage, or you melee character and you just walk out and wait.
Yeah, that wasn't much fun to deal with.
That mechanic, I barely interacted with it. I just kind of hung out near the middle of the arena, which he almost never goes to.
Yeah.
And then I just lasered him.
And
it was like, oh, he's doing the rocket spam thing.
Like and then again,
dodge
two spawn points, 2 teleport points. He was basically going from one to another. They seemed random which one they would be. But it'd be like fairly opposite each other, opposite.
He'd just teleport vaguely opposite to where he was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah, and sometimes
chase him down, hit him once, doesn't heal. Okay, we continue on.
Sometimes no one had to deal with the rocket spam thing.
Yeah.
Because he did it and then teleported immediately. He dealt with it for you.
Like, I don't want you to be too close to these rockets. It would be unfair.
I'm going to teleport all the way over here.
But yeah, that fight was so easy that we knew we won. But
yeah, that's never that good.
There's one part of the fight that is incredibly hard.
And it doesn't feel intentional.
And it's also it feels unfairly punishing because you literally haven't
the thing that lets you deal with the mechanic hasn't spawned yet.
Oh yeah, this was something I wanted to mention earlier as well. Is there any consistency as to how many Ice Bite stacks you get?
Yes, you always get one. Each time he does that little blue laser thing.
Yeah, I know that's what gives you the things, but sometimes we go into the intermission with 2, and sometimes we have 4.
Well, I think it depends on our timing, right? How fast we did the miner.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Okay, that reminds me. The fire that spawns. Sometimes only one piece of fire spawns, so you can only clear one Ice Bite. What the fuck?
Yes. Oh my god.
I can't believe I almost forgot this.
I think I say that in our kill video, is I say Charlie has priority on fire, just in case only one spawns.
Yeah, so you have to fucking fight your way up until after the first laser phase, and then, only one fire spawns, and it spawns under the person that just died anyway. So they mean, oh, dude, it's another one of those mechanics that, the amount that spawns shouldn't be random, dude.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the fight is pretty all over the place. I mean, going into it on our kill, I only had 1 life, and I was expecting to just die during the first intermission, or right after the first intermission, and then I'd just be spectating. But I was pretty sure we would still kill it anyway, because we've never had any trouble with any other part of the boss except the start.
Yeah.
Yep.
After we got our strat sorted anyway.
And the main problem with the start was the first bite.
Yeah, it's just the Ice Bite, yeah. Alright, let's move on then, seeing as we've just been shitting on Tinker at the time. So, to conclude, overall, I thought the difficulty curve of the raid was pretty good, other than Tinker.
Yeah.
Gyrocopter and Timber, both really fun, early game, fairly forgiving fights, in that you could use some of their mechanics against them.
Yeah.
And then Beastmaster is like, okay, I'm going to be a bit more serious now. You actually have to play.
He's still going to help you out.
Yeah, it'll still help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can plan some stuff around it with the acid pool management.
Yeah.
And then Techies, you really have to start managing shit. That's fun. And get some damage in while you're doing it. And Clockwerk, pretty difficult actually near the end when there's loads of fucking projectiles everywhere and you have to deal with anthrax and time stops. What are they called? Chronospheres.
Chronospheres, yeah.
That can get really hectic. And then Tinker. So
Yeah,
overall, the difficulty curve is pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the difficulty curve goes up slowly but steadily and just plummets all the way down after the first.
The way down after intermission 1,
Yeah.
Okay, you managed to get past Techies? Well, here you go. Here's Tinker.
I thought we were done shitting on Tinker.
Oh, that's the trick. We're never done.
You wait until the next raid comes out. We're going to be shitting on Tinker.
In terms of the difficulty...
Mid-world first kill.
In terms of the difficulty, that's how the curve would go for me. But in terms of the complexity, or rather the... like, in spite of the balance, how cool are the mechanics? I think the mechanics for all of the bosses are actually really well done, except the final fight.
I would say I would agree with you, but I think Clockwerk was slightly less interesting than the fights that preceded it. It was a well-designed fight as like a bullet hell style fight, and you can choose your own like order of mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd still say it's slightly less interesting than. Well, especially Techies. I thought Techies was the best fight.
I think Techies is the best fight in the raid. But yeah, I think Clockwerk would feel like, like the mechanic coolness graph or whatever would stay pretty consistent with Clockwerk if you couldn't just stay out of cogs.
Yeah.
That feels pretty I don't know. Weird.
Yeah. What do you think, Symbol?
I think
the difficulty curve.
I think every fight had something interesting that you had to be doing.
Yeah.
Something creative. Like I say had to be doing in quotation marks, because the main issue with some of the fight is that the stuff that you quote unquote had to be doing, sometimes you didn't have to be doing that. And that's, I think, where Tinker fell so poorly. But I still think that Tinker in its core is a good fight. It's just there's tuning issues there and there's some weird stuff happening. But all in all, I think every fight has very interesting mechanics.
And they're all unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How did you... I think it'd be best to do it perhaps one by one. How did you feel like your playstyle changed at all, going from one boss to another, Charlie? Or maybe the focus of what you had to do within the fight changed at all from one boss to another?
As a healer, yeah, definitely, which was really fun. So, like, going from Techies to Clockwerk, the difference was pretty huge. Because on Techies, you want to min-max your healing as much as possible so that you can deal with the mechanics. But then on Clockwerk, you have to min-max your healing because everyone's taking loads of damage a lot.
Yeah.
Because, you make a lot of mistakes. And you spend so much time dodging on Clockwerk that I had to play pretty well so that I could keep up with healing while also dodging. So yeah, I'd say like that was just an example. The fights, yeah, they definitely made me play very differently as a healer. Except for the early fights, they were pretty simple. I just DPS those ones.
How about you, Symbol? Did you feel like you had to deal with the ads a lot, or your positioning mattered in a different way depending on the fight?
Definitely. the rotation that you use is always the same, but that's just the nature of a DPS character.
Yeah.
Where you just want to get back to your rotation as soon as possible. But like in Beastmaster, you keep your eyes open to see if the bad spawn favorably, so you can just burst them down. On Tinker, you have to keep your eyes open for the spiderlings. I think the on Gyrocopter, mostly I ignored everything because I knew my other party members had everything sorted.
Yeah.
But that's more an internal issue than
Lazy fuck.
What about you, JD? Did you have to? Did it feel that much difference to switch between clearing the ads and attacking the boss as a ranged DPS?
No. I played almost every fight exactly the same, but that is because I was playing a really bugged OP DPS that can just do everything all the time. So I think that was probably why. If I was playing Lena normally, then yeah, definitely I have to play different on every fight.
What about when you were playing Wind Ranger?
When I was playing Wind Ranger.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was too
Wind Runner.
busy. I was too busy not having fun to think about what I was playing.
Oh, okay.
Fair.
I mean, Wind Ranger, you play every fight the same as well. You don't do any damage, and you just tell people when you're putting the totem down.
And you heal occasionally.
And you heal occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, but you also have to be far away. Otherwise you don't do any damage.
Yeah, and then you die because you're out of position.
I felt like for me the fights, except for occasionally having to deal with the ads, felt pretty the same. Trying to DPS the boss down and move out for the major damage.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's more of that's very Templar specific. That I can jump onto an ads, burst it down, and jump back to continue the fight. But my role or what I had to do felt the same across all of the bosses, except perhaps Beastmaster and Timbersaw, where I actually was when I was using my jump to exploit the mechanics or avoid the mechanics. In the case of Beastmaster, I had to use the jump to attack him in sort of melee range, and when he was about to throw the hatchet, I would jump away with the timing. I can still stay wounded.
You had to dodge the stuns because you had to line them
with
up.
my jump.
Yeah.
Which I think that's really fun to use on any champion with dash, any character with dash.
There is one fight that everyone has to play differently, which is the best fight in the raid, Techies.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So that's really cool, and that's something that is made infinitely better by bugged Lena. Is that I'm not stuck in place anymore. I can go and clear like 1,000,000 mines while still DPSing.
Question. We've gushed over the Techies fight so much. Can we just bump that up to S tier?
No.
No.
S tier is if a fight is near perfection, and there are too many issues in Techies that I have.
Fair enough.
Such as the Suicide Squad.
The instant Suicide Squad is the main thing keeping Techies out of S.
I mean, I love the fight, but it's too flawed to be S tier, in my opinion, at least. I can see why you might put it S tier.
What even is Suicide Squad? Was that a mechanic?
It was in there somewhere. I'm sure he did it once or twice.
Yeah. All I remember is asking for heals.
Yep,
With the
I remember that too.
With the Timbersaw, did we have any issues with that fight?
I think we already brought up
Except
all
visuals.
All right.
Yeah, I mean the ads consistency
And the
the ult timing with the trees and stuff.
Yeah. Same with Gyro, or the inconsistency on the stuns.
Yeah.
The
and,
the whirlwind was kind of hard to see sometimes as well. I know I didn't bring that up, but it's exceptionally minor. Oh,
yeah.
and the cone. There's a couple of issues there.
Every fight has a couple issues.
I think
stopping it being S.
I think we talked about this last time, where it feels like there's just that little bit too many bugs in general in the game that prevents it from being amazing, and instead it's just good.
Everything currently feels a little bit janky.
Yes.
Okay, so did we want to do anything else? Like maybe suggestions for the bosses or the characters, or are we...
I think next raid, the final boss should be good.
I think next raid, the final boss should be Tinker again.
That would be amazing. Please release the blog post on the next raid. How about that? Because you said you were going to do it at the end of the month. It's now the 10th of October. By the end of the month, did you mean the end of next month? You bitch.
The end of a month. Jesus.
Yeah.
I want
Charlie,
the final
you are
boss.
brutal. Holy shit.
I want the final boss to be the bully phase of these.
I love the game. That would be amazing. That would be sick. No, but yeah, I love the game. I want the blog. I want the next patch. I want to know.
Yeah.
God, you're starting to sound like a Dota player. Give new pledge, please.
Give content, please.
Yeah, I want Aghanim Scepter effects.
Please give us Agas effects. Yeah.
But no,
Hopefully next raid is really good. I hope there's a new character with next raid as well. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Reiterating what I said in the last video, so much fun. This has been a lot more fun than I've had with any other multiplayer game I've played.
Yeah, I mean, I found boss battles to be one of the best experiences I've ever had in gaming.
Yeah, actually.
So, yeah, same.
I obviously think a lot of it. That's why I hate some of it so much.
Yeah.
Charlie's passion is an act of love. No, Charlie's hate is an act of love, is what it intends to say.
Yeah.
Charlie loves and hates boss battles, just as he loves and hates himself.
Yeah.
If Charlie hates something, it means that he really loves something.
Yeah, that's why he's always so mean to me.
I think let's end it there.
Yeah, alright.
Alright, GG's.
Yeah, that's the end of that.
YouTube.
Alright, we're done.
Alright, ring up Stefan. I want to fucking have a word with him.